to get pressure on Washington last year without seeing a lot of extras. Do you expect that to be the same, or do you have a different game plan because it's a different defense?
A different game plan, different defense. I think every week we go into, I mean, we are, a lot of people say we're smoke and mirrors, which that doesn't bother me. It offends some people. I think that's a good thing because they have no idea what you're doing, no idea where you're coming from. They struggle with it. And we give people a lot of movement. We give them a lot of different looks. We try and make it look like 6 are coming. We'll drop 4. I mean, 4 will come. We try and make it look like 6 are coming and 7 will come. So, I mean, we will we'll give them a whole bunch of different looks. I think up front, I think we got some guys that can put pressure on the quarterback. I think we have to be able to keep them from running the ball. And then their quarterback, Jake Browning, is a really, really good player. As a sophomore, he looked like he was going to be a Heisman Trophy winner for the next 2 years. Struggled a little bit last year. They're doing some different things for him to get him comfortable. They get him out of the pocket. When he rolls to his right, he's deadly. So we need to create some situations where he's uncomfortable. So we'll give them some different looks that they haven't seen before and get them to play hard and see if we have a chance.
For the Washington offense, very similar to Michigan State as far as the balance between the pass and run?
Very, yeah. I think different type of running game though. Michigan State would like to be like San Diego State as far as running the ball, getting 2 backs in there, getting 2 tight ends, and try and pound you a little bit. Washington will do a lot of similarities there, statistic-wise, balance-wise. They're 50-50 run pass, and they'll do it out of different formations. They like to run. They like to establish the run to set up some of their play action stuff. Get Jake out of the pocket a little bit and see if he can find his receivers. They've got really good receivers. I mean, they've got a couple guys that are real shifty and shaky and hard to cover in space, and then they got a 6'4" guy that goes up and gets the ball. So I mean, they've got it all, and then they've got really big tight ends, just like we saw last week. So it'll be a really good challenge. I mean, they're the 10th ranked team in the country for a reason. They're a really good football team.
How would you assess the play your linebacking core so far, and what do you think they need to improve on?
I think we need to continue to improve on assignments. We need to continue to improve on playing hard. I mean, we got a little bit tired on Saturday, and there's no reason to get tired when you rotate as many guys as we do. I still think the 2 freshmen, Darian and Merlin, are doing a phenomenal job for being true freshmen. Now that we've played a full quarter of the season, we'll see how much of a toll this is going to take on them. I mean, we around here we played 225 snaps of defense on defense in 3 games. That's for most teams the equivalent of 4 games. So those guys are getting a lot of experience, and they played almost every snap of those 225. So I'm proud of where they're at, but we've got to get a lot better still. And it's not just blitzing, off the ball coverage. I mean everything. They're okay at everything, but we need to be really good at everything. I think Coach Pierce has done a phenomenal job. Coach Pierce is between his, being a high school coach at Long Beach Poly and being a coach with the New York Giants and then playing for 9 years in the league. He's got tremendous experience, and he relates really well with those guys. He still, all the schemes that we're seeing is stuff that he played against in the NFL. So he can say it, he can give it to those guys from his view. And it has a lot of credit because he's very credible because of how good of a player he was. So it's very easy to believe in what he's doing. And I think I'm super excited he's on our staff because I think he does a phenomenal job.
Coach, how much did it help being on the road this last week in preparation kind of for the atmosphere you're going to be playing in Washington?
I think it's good. You know, we played up in Washington when I was at San Diego State in 2012, and it's an unbelievable place to play. It's super loud. If the game is close, it's really, really loud. So I'm hoping it's going to be as loud as I've ever heard it. We won't have to deal with it that much because they're not loud when they're on defense. But our offense is going to have to deal with it. So I think their plan is to go inside tomorrow and use speakers and get it as loud as they possibly can to work on their communication. And we'll stay outside in the sun where it's nice and quiet and see what work we can get done.
When you went back and looked at the film, what was the most disappointing part, or what was the biggest problem with the defense?
Biggest disappointment was our lack of physicality in the second half. I've watched it probably 4 or 5 times for numerous reasons, at both sides of the ball. I mean, I thought they did a great job. They had a good plan on defense. I think our plan going into it And this is a perfect example of a scheme getting installed year one, and where we'll be 2 and 3 years down the road. I made a mistake as a coach. The first half, I thought the game plan was really good. In the first quarter, they have 3 possessions. We make them punt all 3 times. They have 35 total yards offense. Second quarter, they get their first drive. It started at the end of the first quarter. They get their first drive. They get 75 yards. We make 2 critical errors, one on a third down where it's 3rd and 9 and we're not playing coverage like it's 3rd and 9. And then they've got a 4th down that we call, and we talk about this to our guys all the time. If we call a certain thing, we think it's going to be pass. We call a certain thing, we think it's going to be run. Well, we call what we think is going to be a pass, and we jump on the run fake, and they complete a 4th down and 2. So those are critical errors that you can't make in a football game if you want to win. If we make that play on 4th down, if the guy's sitting there waiting for him to throw the ball, we get off the field and it's now 7-0. Now it's 14-0. When the decision to go for that 4th and 1, I think if you have that decision 100 times, you make the same decision 100 times. Because being on that staff from before at San Diego State, they have a mantra of how they play. They're going to pound you into the ground until you submit. And we're not quite built for that yet, as far as knowing how to do that for 4 quarters, because we don't. The advantage they have to that too is they see that every day in practice, so they get accustomed to that, and that's what we used to. When I was on that staff, we used to call it the barbarian horde. Bring those guys out and just pound them. And if the game is within 10 points, it's a 2-possession game. They don't change their style one bit. They keep pounding you and pounding you and pounding you because they know they're 2 possessions away from winning, so they don't worry about the clock. Once you get up by 14, all of a sudden it changes a little bit. Now they can still keep their momentum going because they can still score 2 possessions if they stop you. You kick a field goal and make it 17, now they're a completely different offense because they can't waste time anymore. So if we kick that field goal at the end of the half and it's a 10-point game, it's 17-7, it changes nothing for them. If we score that touchdown right there and make it 21-7, we got a 14-point lead and we get the ball. On defense, they're not going to be nearly as aggressive as they were in the second half because they can't give up a big play. So he's going to be a little bit less aggressive, and we'll have an opportunity to move the ball. And now if we get up by 21, the game's over because they're not capable of moving the ball with that kind of a pace. That was our mindset going into it. We don't make the first down. I never would have thought in a million years they'd be able to go 90 yards in 1:45 with no timeouts. So that's a lack of experience on our part of, we practice those 2-minute situations. We didn't do a good job in the 2-minute situation of having a sense of urgency of getting lined up, knowing the ball needs to be tackled in bounds. There was 3 critical errors on that drive. One, the very first play, they're just going to run the block. They're just going to run the clock out. They get in 2 backs, 2 tight ends. They're going to run a little play action pass to see if they can sneak one. We do a nice job in coverage. We have one of our defensive ends stick his nose inside, and the quarterback, who's a good scrambler, gets outside and he gets up the field and they get a gain. All of a sudden now, they think, okay, let's see if we can move the ball. We get them in a 3rd and 10 situation. We call a zone coverage, and we make a mistake. We make an assignment error. Now they get the first down. We have an opportunity. They have no timeouts. They throw a little hitch route there on the sideline, which we've been good at tackling up until a few points on Saturday when we get tired. If we make a tackle right there on it was 3rd down, they throw the ball down short. He makes us miss. He makes Chase miss, and then he makes Jalen Bates miss. If either one of those guys make the tackle, the clock runs out and they don't score. They don't even get a field goal because there was 9 seconds left and they don't have any timeouts. They won't even have time to spike it. So those are the kind of things that we need to become better at on defense, knowing the urgency, knowing the situation. And we practice it and we talk about it, but now that they've had an actual game situation where it cost them, hopefully they'll be better at it. We made an adjustment in the second half. We made an adjustment at halftime because I knew what they were going to do, giving us a tight end wing over there. And here we get into where I made my mistake. As a coach in this scheme, and the great thing about this scheme and why we will be so much better as we get it down the road, 2-3 years down the road, and where they are a decade into it, is you've got all of our defensive calls have concepts with them, whether it's front, whether it's stunts, and some of those stunts and fronts go together. At San Diego State, being that far into the scheme, we can call things that we haven't practiced for 2 years, and the kids have no problem with it. We did some stuff that we practiced in the spring that Merlin and Darian and Charlie were getting ready to go to the prom, so they have 0 reps at it. Well, that's my fault as a coach. I asked them to do something they haven't done before. We make an alignment assignment, we draw it up on the sideline, we draw it up on the board, we draw it up at halftime, and it's not something that they haven't done, but they haven't done it together. So the first 3 times that we run it, we don't get lined up right, and they were in critical situations. 3rd and 1, we don't get lined up right. We don't have a guy pinching inside the A gap that's going to stop the power play. There's nobody in there, so they get vertical, they get the first down. We come out in the second half, they go down, they kick a field goal. They get this ball the second time, we stop them, they punt. We get the ball the 3rd time, we go down, we kick the ball, they get a field goal. It's still a 1-score game. We just need to keep slowing them down. We're not. They're starting to move the ball a little bit, but they haven't gashed us, they haven't worn us out yet. But now we've been out there. Now we've been out there for about 30 plays in the second half. 10 minutes to go in the 4th quarter. We need to get a stop. And if you watch the line of scrimmage, they are doing exactly what they're built to do: run you off the ball. And now we've got guys that we're trying to do some things schematically that they're physically getting pushed into the second level guys. They're not taking on blocks the same way we took them on early in the game. They're not taking on blocks the way we want them to. So now, instead of going through the inside shoulder of a wing, that wing's blocking down and getting the middle linebacker, and now they get an extra guy out there. So I should have just called stuff that we practiced and live with it, play, and hopefully, and that goes against my mantra, because I say if you make a mistake and you know what you're doing, but you do it fast, there's a chance you're gonna make up for it. Well, I got them a little bit confused with a couple of things I called, and they weren't playing as fast. Okay. Well, now they score. Our offense does a great job. They go down, they score the ball. And if you watch the last 3 plays to the first 3 plays, all of a sudden we have a little life. The very first play of that last drive where we need a turnover, all of a sudden we didn't call anything new. They just have a sense of urgency, and they decide to be physical again, and we tackle them for a 4-yard loss. The exact same play that gashed us on the 10-minute drive. The very next play, they make one guy miss in the backfield. They get about 6 yards, so we got a 3rd and 7. Then we cause a fumble. If we don't cause that fumble, the game's over, because we missed a tackle that would have got them to punt the ball. But the good thing is they kept fighting, and we made a turnover, and we caused a fumble. Going forward, they'll learn from that situation. A year from now, we'll be built to understand where we're going to and what we're getting to. I would love to play those guys again. Because I would give them a completely different look than what we did this time, because that's what we do. And I know that's the kind of football game you want to be in, a physical, violent game to build your program. And we'll be better for it. A lot of those DBs that were playing out there on Saturday, they had no idea what they were getting into. They had no idea how violent it is. Now, we expect our DBs, like I said, we play cover 2, we expect them to make tackles to the line of scrimmage. They didn't quite understand that early. They wanted to sit back there and make sure things don't break. And we're not free safeties. We don't play with a free safety. That's why we call them a Tillman. We don't even call them a free safety, because we want to go out there and make sure they don't get a yard, not touchdowns. And we gave in a little bit in the second half. We physically, they out-physical us in the second half. We weren't outnumbered on the running plays when they had a puller. We weren't taking things on, and they would get an extra guy. But I was disappointed in the physical part of it, especially when I see the last 3 plays where we're physically taking it to them. Now, they probably relaxed and thought they had won the game. They hadn't. We had a chance to win. If Frank catches that ball, or if we catch the Hail Mary, who knows? Herm might go for 2, and we win or lose right there, or we go to overtime and take a chance stopping them.
Time for one more question. Anyone has one?
You guys don't seem like you play Michigan State's running gym comes from across, and that's a battle about the next play.
Yep.
Pop a fumble late.
Correct.
How do you get there?
I think that's they're learning the expectation. We expect them to play hard. We expect them to practice hard and every day. We hadn't run pursuit in a couple weeks, and they made me mad because I thought they were lazy as heck during the second half of that game and during that 2-minute pursuit, 2-minute situation at the end of the half. So yesterday we went back to our spring ball roots. We ran pursuit for about 15 minutes, and you know what? It probably hurt our preparation a little bit because they were gassed and tired when we went to the first scout period. But I don't care. And I told them, I said, you know what? We will practice no football. You guys will sit out here and we'll run all day, and if you don't like it, you can quit. And we'll find the next guy up. And we'll find 11 guys that want to play as hard as they can, that are willing to throw their bodies around and give them up, like Darian Butler. That dude has no regard for his body. He's 240 pounds, he's 5'11", and he knocked a guard on his tail. I mean, he hit one of their guards who's a big young man. I mean, he's 6'6", he's 330 pounds. Really, he's probably 340. He knocked him on his tail and knocked him into the running back and made a tackle. If we can get 11 dudes that'll play like that, we'll be unbelievable on defense. And they're going to learn that that's our expectation. And it doesn't bother me that we're in the middle of the season. They're gonna have plenty of time to get rest and play fast. And when everybody's playing like that, I mean, it happened to be Jalen on that play. It happened to be JJ and Ashari. Now, if you watch the tape, there's 10 dudes around that football trying to get it out, and when it popped out, we jumped on it. And I talk about it all the time, when the ball's out, if we have guys around the football, we're going to get it. Well, they had 4. We had 10. Odds are we're going to get it. So we're going to continue to harp on them to play hard, play physical, and play fast. And I promise you this, they will compete their tails off this Saturday night. And if we make a couple plays in the secondary and they can't run the ball and we get back to who we are, we'll have a chance to win. And it'll be a really fun football game and a really fun environment. And then we got 8 more. And every single one of those we're going to have a chance to win and hold them down in points. I mean, we're giving up 16 points a game right now. We're giving up a little over 4 yards per play. And I talked about at the very beginning, you want to know how good you are on defense. Statistics, there's really 3 important statistics. Number 1, points. They can't score, they can't win. Number 2, turnovers. If you create possessions for your offense and you're good in turnover margin, okay, we're like a little over 1 right now, we're plus 1.5. It's like good for 15th, 16th in the country. Then you got an opportunity to be pretty good on defense because you're not on the field. If you're not on the field, all of a sudden they can't get yards and they can't score points. And then the third one, if you want to tell how good a defense is, you look at how many yards they give up per play. Well, we're giving up, we played 225 yards of play on defense, and we're giving up about 4 yards of play. I think it's 4.52. Anything under 4.75 is pretty good defense. If you get under 4, it's really good defense because that takes account for every throw, every run, every incomplete pass, every complete. I mean, it takes every single play out of those 225. So we're building in the right direction. Games like that happened on Saturday, we gave up 3 touchdowns and 2 field goals. That's way too much. We'll learn from that. If we can hold people to around 16 points the rest of the season, we'll have a chance to win a bunch of games. If we give up 35 and 40, we're not going to have a chance to win very many. And they know that, the reality of it. I think our offense is coming along. I think that drive in the end of the 4th quarter, that's who they are. That was phenomenal. And I think Coach Likens and those guys are doing a great job giving them a plan every week. And we'll continue to work together. And if we can hold them down and they can score some points, it'll be a lot of fun around here.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Coach, thank you.
Mm-hmm.